Hello and welcome to another verse of the day. Today we're finishing our passage in 1 Corinthians that we started with verse 19 and now we're finishing up with verse 25. A couple things to point out before we get started. First of all, these endings here are not the most common of endings. You may find yourself needing to look back through your first year Greek textbook in order to figure out what these are. I will give you a clue though and say that they are related to adjectives. And as far as words you may not recognize, this word comes from moros and it means foolish. This word comes from athanes and it means weak. And this word comes from iskaros and it means strong. Now please pause the video, take some time to translate, and then we'll work through it together. Okay, so first question, what is our main verb? Well, in this first phrase, our main verb is the be verb, estin, and it is present indicative, third person singular. And since it is a be verb, we know that we will not be looking for a subject and a direct object, but instead a subject and a predicate. So what is our subject? Well, we'll notice here that this article is the neuter article, telling us that the adjective we're working with here is also neuter. And since it's neuter, it means that in this form, it could either be nominative or accusative. Now, since we're looking for something to be the subject, we're going to go ahead and assume that this is in the nominative case, unless proven otherwise while working through our translation. Now, this adjective gives us just a little more trouble because it doesn't actually have a noun that it agrees with in number, case, and gender. That means it's going to be substituting for a noun, and since it's doing that, it's good to just make note here, okay, this is a neuter adjective, and that will really help us when it comes to our translation, because if I'm going to try and translate this word, I'm going to be asking myself, well, is this referring to a person or is it referring to a thing? And since it's in the neuter case, I know that this phrase is not talking about the foolish one, like the foolish person. Since it's neuter, it could be the foolish thing, or in this case, just foolishness. So we have our subject, we have our verb, and now we're looking for a predicate. And we know that the word God and the word man cannot be our predicates because those are both genitives. So it must be this word here, which comes from the adjective wise. So this is going to be our predicate. The foolishness is wise, and here's where we have to deal with this ending right here. Were you able to remember what it came from? It comes from the comparative form. Now when we have a comparative form of the adjective, what that means is that in English you're going to take the adjective and either add the word er to the end of the adjective or add the word more before the adjective because it's comparing one thing with another. So in this case it's the foolishness is wiser. And then that's kind of the bare bones of our sentence. It's a little rough, but now we can work with these genitives. God is modifying foolishness. Men is modifying wise. So, because the foolishness of God is wiser, and here we won't say of man, because we've got this comparative. So in English, we're going to instead use the word then and say the foolishness of God is wiser than man. Now if you found this phrase a little difficult, you may want to repause and to try and do the next phrase. I think you'll find it a little bit easier to work through. But I'm just going to go ahead and steamroll on. We're going to have a phrase here now that is now very, very similar to the first one. So this second sentence, that same be verb is going to be implied. Weakness, also a neuter noun, also functioning substantively, is our subject. Stronger is our predicate. God is modifying weakness. Man is modifying stronger. And so we can do our translation. Because the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. So that's our verse for the day, And that concludes 1 Corinthians 1, 19 through 25. Give yourself a pat on the back, buy yourself some ice cream, and we'll see you next time.